Today, we are honored to have guitarist Nick Bowcott with us from, you know him best from his time in Grim Reaper, popular new wave of British heavy metal band that had a great run of albums in the mid 80s. We all know See You in Hell. Nick has also had a very prolific career in the music industry outside of the spotlight. And we talk a lot about that today. We get to know what he's been doing post Grim Reaper, and some of that stuff is as interesting as anything he did with Grim Reaper. So it's just a great episode, a lot of great stories. I mean, the guy has stories for days. Every time we started into a question and got an answer, that answer led to another story, led to another story, led to another story. And this is one of those episodes that Jason and I just love, because you look down at the clock and you realize you're almost pushing 2 hours and it feels like 15 minutes. So.
I love Nick Bowcott. I want to hug Nick Bowcott. I can't hug him right now, but someday I'm going to hug that guy.
Yeah, so
I had so much fun hearing his stories and talking to him and relatable stories, because he's talking about our people and he's talking about just the rock world and like it's a family. And you know what? Because it is.
It is. Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
And you guys got to see this episode. You got to listen. You got to watch. He was all musicians, all rock fans who are familiar with Marshall amplification. All of your favorite heavy metal bands have walls of Marshall stacks standing behind them, and it has become the backdrop, signature backdrop for rock and roll and heavy metal universally. So he was the Marshall rep for 18 years. One of his greatest friends was Jim Marshall from Marshall Amplification. This guy has interviewed, hung out with, talked with, jammed with, partied with, did business deals with, written articles with and about anyone and everyone in your record collection. A very special, important, may or may not be a household name, but God damn it, he should be. Nick Bowcott, you should know who that is.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to get into with him, and we did, is I remember as a kid not only being into Grim Reaper, but I would always read Circus Magazine, and he had this column in the back where he dissected, the playing of some popular guitarist of the day. 1 week or 1 month it'd be, Carlos Cavasso from Quiet Riot, who he actually succeeded in that writing that column, or Steve Clark or Tracy Guns or somebody like that. But turning the page and seeing him in the magazine writing this column, I'm no musician, but I remember thinking it was really cool that Nick had a column in every single issue of Circus Magazine for a number of years where he was kind of showing you how to play guitar like some of your guitar heroes of the day. So besides Grim Reaper, he went into this career where he was a writer. He wrote columns for not only Circus Magazine, but a magazine out of England called Guitarist, which would be, a gear heavy sort of magazine similar to Guitar World or Guitar Player or one of the other guitar nerd magazines. And then the whole amplification, and now he works for Sweetwater, which is a distribution house for music gear. So
Correct. Well, and also I'll go back to, for everyone out there who claims and is part of and still celebrates what is known as a movement called the New Wave of British Heavy Metal, Grim Reaper was part of that. Nick was part of that. Him and his bandmates, whether they ended up on the See You in Hell record and records after, he was part of that whole thing. He saw Iron Maiden before Paul Di'Anno and even Dennis Stratton, who played on the first Maiden. He saw them with some band called Saxon. So he was there when the movement was happening. And so and you wouldn't know it because Nick looks great. He's healthy. Yeah. He's vibrant. He's full of energy.
Full of energy. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was there, and we're talking 50 years ago. He was there when the whole thing was starting in England, and was part of it, and wrote songs, and made his way to the States, and it looks like he stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like he stayed over here, and I guess. We didn't really talk about so much as the rise and fall of the popularity, if you will, of Grim Reaper, but See You in Hell is like, that's the calling card for Grim Reaper. That's the song everybody knows and they should.
Yeah.
The point that I'm saying is his story and his trajectory, he probably ended up, being he's a writer. He's a fucking writer now, but he ended up becoming a writer and getting in with all these people because of Grim Reaper, and he talks about that today. If it wasn't for the new wave of British heavy metal, if it wasn't for Grim Reaper, he wouldn't be here in the world writing about all of these great guitar players, these great articles. He gets to get up and jam with all of his heroes that he grew up listening to, or even people he's interviewed. He ends up becoming friends and going to their houses and, jamming with them on stage in front of tons of people. And so this is probably in the top 5 of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, it's a good one. And I think
Can you tell?
It's a good one. And I think to sum up what you were just saying, one of the things you'll learn quickly about Nick is we talk about it in the show. He is what we call a lifer, and he's driven by a pure passion for the music. And so once Grim Reaper stopped, he found another way to be involved. And once that stopped, he found another way to be involved. And he's always going to be in and around music, and hopefully it pays his bills to some degree. But that's the kind of guy he is. He's so enthusiastic about music and heavy metal in particular that he's still a 15-year-old kid at heart. And whenever one train ends, he finds another way to get involved and stay in it. And that's because he just has such a reverence and respect and love for all things hard rock and heavy metal.
And it all comes back to hard rock and heavy metal. Apparently, he is an ace salesman, a sales rep manager. And he talks about that. He talks about that in this episode. He's not like going on about how badass of a sales manager he is. You got to hear the story.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of great stuff. We were thoroughly impressed. It was an absolute pleasure and an honor to have Nick Bowcott today on the Talk Louder podcast.